All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. I will call our meeting to order. Before we do anything else, I'm going to ask the people who are appearing remotely to identify yourselves. Let's see.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Adrian,
Hi, Adrian Gill, District 1.
is Jim,
Jim Sheridan.
Mary.
Hi, Mary Hooper.
All right. And I think that's everybody who's here remotely. Great. Okay. Next up, we have approval of the agenda. Is there any proposed changes to the agenda? If not, we can consider it approved and move on to new member welcome. I assume you're in charge of that, John?
Well, I think we've only got one person who's not experienced with procedure at all here. And that's, oh,
No,
you have it.
we've got two. We've got Elaine and Ben, and we've
Sorry.
at least. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right.
I was going to bring my list and I didn't bring my list. But Elaine, you have not been sworn in yet. Is that correct? You have. Okay, no matter what's been sworn.
All right. So we can go around the table. I'm Jack McCullough. I'm the mayor, and for tonight's purposes, I'm also the chair of the Board of Abatement. Yeah.
And I'm a justice of the peace.
Ron Weil, also a justice of the peace.
Charlotte Hoyt.
Marty Lagerstead, assessor.
Elaine Ball, justice of the peace.
Sal Alfano, City Council District 2.
And Doyle, City Council District 1.
Bob Gross, justice of the peace.
Carter, justice of the peace.
Harry Brown, I both of Justice and City Council. I got two votes.
John Odom, City Clerk.
Page.
David Burton, citizen.
Justice of the peace.
Yeah. And Bev. Yeah.
Went out.
All right. You want to do anything along the lines of new member introduction? Or do you
I
think
don't know if you need to go over the procedure, how we do things, so they know what to expect, or if we can just, they could learn by doing.
Yeah,
There was an orientation that I read.
okay, yeah, and in the packet, there's the rules of procedure. And so I think we can just get started.
Proceed.
First up, we have the consent agenda. Tax collector annual expense. Have you want to tell us about them?
I don't know if anybody has any questions. They're kind of what we call housekeeping things to get them off the records before the audit.
Oh, you should come up to the table. I'm sorry, because so you can be, your voice can be picked up.
Yeah, these are housekeeping things. And as I said at the very top of the letter that you guys got, that all of them are 800, 801, which are personal property accounts. So they usually aren't very big. And the first thing I requested there was we finally realized that NS Leasing and North Star Leasing were one and the same company. And so they pointed out, sent Jane, our assessor's administrative assistant, the paperwork to indicate that this was just a change of name only and not two separate businesses. So they have paid the one they are operating under now, but we'd like to get the other one off through abatement. We usually do that when it's our error. So then the other one, Northern Leasing, again, it was a company that had operated for many years in Montpelier and always paid. And then all of a sudden, 2 years went unpaid. And as I indicated there, by law, the assessor's office is allowed if they don't file the assessor form by April 20th of each year. And they give them much leeway to, if they send it in by June, they still allow it as long as it's before we bill the taxes. But if they don't send a form in, the assessor's office can by law raise it by 20%. And most of the time they do, because it's trying to get them to respond to us. Many of these companies who aren't located in Montpelier, but do leasing to businesses in Montpelier. So anyway, that's what the one for the company that's out in New Jersey is after the billing where I said I had the right to repossess equipment that they were leasing to various businesses around the town. I have done it once many years ago. I took over a vending machine to get reaction. And they sent in, again, proof to Jane that they actually had not had anything in the city for those 2 years. And so, again, this is, to me, a house and her, I think, a housekeeping activity. And we'd like to get that off the billings documents. Then the third one was a lady that was flooded out in July of 23 and has not been able to go back into 35 Elm Street. And I don't know whether she's doing the work out of home or not, but she filed with the assessor in 24-25's report that what she showed is having for business and professional equipment. That could be just a computer. It could be a table and a desk. I mean, but anyway, it did not add up to our 10,000 minimum. And it got missed again, so it wasn't done through errors and omissions. And because she was flooded out with only 10 days in, I just, a lot of the flood people said, why are you billing us? I said, well, we'd already done the billing and then the flood happened just, then. So I myself feel that this person deserves to have that. And so I'm requesting it. Rabble Rouser, they paid the 23-24 flood taxes, even though they were one of the ones and had pretty good amount. But they went out of business right after they got billed for the 24-25. Their mail is coming back to us. I understand we may be seeing some type of legal paperwork. I'm hoping it's not bankruptcy, more for their sake than ours, because our amount is not that much. But the base tax for last year would have been $190.64. And like I said, they left in August or shut the door. There was not much snow, and the fees amount to $25.95. So I would suggest that we write that off, because the time spent sending and paying 69 cents a time to have this mail come back, and my time or whoever's going to be doing this in the future, just recommend it. We take it off. Hugo's Bar and Grill, he was another person. He's paid all other taxes, but he really, like many, as I said, we can't believe the city's making us pay this small amount when we've been hit so hard by the floods. And again, like I said, his original tax was $127.80. I think he just was upset to think that we wouldn't automatically abate that, because I kept sending out abatement forms on all this stuff. And then the final one is and again, it's a flood situation. It was $89.48, and they are not on. I'm sorry, that is this year. That is no, I'm confused again myself. 23-24 would have been the flood year taxing amount. And they again, what they filed did not exceed the 10,000. And so we've basically given them, by abating, would give them credit for the $89.48 base taxes and with the late fees of $27.48. So it's just really housekeeping.
Anybody have any questions? Rosie?
I just want to go back and make sure that we are treating those flood folks the same way that we treated the personal property tax for anybody who requested abatement for the flood. And I don't remember if we abated the whole year for those folks or if we just abated a couple of quarters.
Well, and all of these, they were not like Hugo's was never went back, was able to go back into that space. Yeah, and let me tell, Rebel Heart and Pink Shutter, we'd have to find out for them. They're paying this year, they paid this year's, the 24-25. It was only the flood thing, and it wasn't even the amount of time for some of these accounts. It was the damage they suffered, and they just felt like, you're just rubbing our face in it. And yeah.
The people that were downtown though, with the business tax, we gave them the 22-23 fee instead of the. we gave-
Increase
did Give
fees.
them a break.
We gave them a break on the fee, but as you can see, they're not really very big to begin with.
Yeah.
What's left. I do have a couple that I still kept from the flood year because they haven't paid the current year, and I'm still got 4 weeks to go to do some private visits, and usually by the end of the year, I can get them to pay up. And so there is a few that may come to you next year from somebody.
Any other questions for anyone? Is there a motion to approve all these items on the consent agenda? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you
Thanks.
all.
You're-
I'm sure they'll be glad when they don't get another delinquent notice this month.
And Bev, if you're leaving now, I just want to say it's the end of an era. I want to express my personal appreciation for everything. you've done.
I said to somebody, they said, you guys ought to sue for old age discrimination. But yeah, this is the gal you're gonna miss. Yes, and
Yeah,
Charlotte, and yeah, what I do is minimal compared to what she and Jane have done. And, yeah, so, but thank you. I've enjoyed working with all of you. And like I said, I've been back twice. Who knows? You may have to put up with me again, Marty. Thank you.
thanks, Bev.
If you
All
actually
right.
get there. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you want to pass the packet down for Ben, do you want to pack it or are you just gonna go rely on, okay. But to pack it down to Elaine. And Paige, do you need a packet? Okay. All right. Next up, Margaret Murray, why don't you come on up to the table so we can hear you?
Obviously, not meant to be for my voice.
Well,
That's before I get upset. So please bear with me. First off, I want to thank everybody for allowing me the continuance.
oh, I gotta stop you. You raise your right hand. You solemnly affirm, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury, that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes,
Okay, now you can proceed.
okay. I've already forgot what I was starting with. Continue with, okay, continuance, right. I started to say thank you very much for allowing me the continuance. The amount of damage that was done to my property was fortunately a little less than most people suffered. I was the first house on Elm Street who did not have to take out my first floor. It's a 3-story Victorian, so I can't even imagine what that would have cost, how much it would have wrecked, et cetera, et cetera. I always remember asking John Picard what he could do about the cellar stairs, because there's one rock down there that's just so level and crooked and everything else. And he said, Margaret, he thinks that's the first rock that went in the first step that went into the basement. And in many ways, I'm very fortunate that I own such a big old house because it's been very good to me in many ways. Living in Montpelier was good for me. Certainly my son going through Montpelier grade school was wonderful for him. And I realized one of the things I didn't make enough copies of to hand out because I had just remembered this, but one of the people I spoke to after the flood, after I received a check from the Hartford, I did have flood insurance. And let's see, I had 85,000 in flood insurance and I was paid 49 and change. I don't remember the change. I just remember it was pretty high on 49. It was like 49.6, 49.8.
Or 62.
Huh? Oh, it's there. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Excuse me. I forgot it was there. But I realized I didn't send out copies of the Wolf's statements because what the Hartford kept saying with the payment was that it was due to seepage, not flooding. And I don't know how many people would have drowned if in the basement because that wasn't seepage. The water went this far from the top of the stairs.
Well, let me just jump in to maybe make this a little bit easier. The claim that you've made is for an abatement because of the inability to pay.
Yes.
So I don't think you really need to go into all the discussion of the damage of the home.
Oh, okay.
Because what you're saying is you just can't afford to pay the taxes.
Basically, because I no longer have the tenants that were there. And the fact that an entity from the, I don't know if it's a state entity or but Vermont Efficiency sent people into the apartment next door to put in heat pumps and the electrical update. And they, in my eyes, didn't complete the work because they never marked the electrical panel. And I got a bit of paper now from Vermont Efficiency because we've been going back and forth for the last 6 months. Because they were supposed to be helping and not finishing the panel meant that I couldn't move forward on the electrical work with anything else. And then I said, well, can I just hire my own electrician? And they said, no, you have to hire one that's covered by Vermont Efficiency. I think that's why I started going into some of the stuff, okay? Because I've been very fortunate. Very fortunate. When I got the whatever the figure was from the Hartford, I realized in adding up, I had $80,000 in flood-related money that I had handed out. Fortunately, I was very lucky that I had also a couple of months before the flood applied for a home improvement loan because I needed to do some work on the house. I had tried to sell it about 2 years before the flood. Actually, it was right before COVID, and it didn't sell. And based on what both the realtor said and the people that looked at the house said, I borrowed, I took out a home improvement loan in order to fix some of those things. And I was very fortunate that I had access to that money because I wouldn't have been able to get a whole, I don't know how I would have even gotten the heating on my own side of the house. Without both the flood money and the home improvement money.
So Margaret, if I can help you
Sure.
with this, I know you've got a number of rental units in the building, but I don't remember exactly how many.
It started as a duplex, two 5-bedroom apartments.
Hmm.
And I realized fairly early on that trying to heat the 3 floors totally. So what I started doing was I just closed off the 3rd floor. For years, we never used the 3rd floor. And part of it is in the summer, it was brutal. In the winter, it was brutal. whether you were freezing or you were sweating to death. But recently, when did I do that? It probably was three years ago. It might have been 4. I started putting in an apartment. I can't do the stairs regularly anymore. So what I've started to do was just live on the first floor, which I made into an apartment for myself. I took a pantry out and put a bathroom in. So now on the second floor, I put in another small 2-bedroom apartment. So right now it's a 1-bedroom for myself on the first floor, 2 bedrooms on the second floor. The 3-bedroom is still not rentable. It still needs work. And the tenants upstairs just moved a month early without notice.
But that apartment that upstairs apartment has been rented and you're
Yeah.
gonna rent it again when you get
Yes.
someone in. there.
Yes,
But you can't rent out the other side of the duplex.
the other side still has really too much work to be done.
Okay.
I was approached by somebody from a church here in Montpelier who was trying to find housing for refugees. And some people came from, I think it was Down Street originally, who said that that if I was going to rent to a family of 7, that's what this family was, 7, that I would have to have a second bathroom. So one of the first things we started with was taking out what used to be a pantry to do another bathroom. I'm sorry, I'm smiling. Trying to get a plumber and an electrician under the same roof at the same time has been challenging. I think challenging is a real understatement. I think there'll be a day when I can catch up with this, but I don't see it happening this year. I'm sorry. I think it's going to take another year. It's going to take having the apartment next door fully rented. And then what we've also started on is the 3rd floor. Capstone. Capstone came part of a weatherization project. I had applied for it 3 years ago. And they did a wonderful job. I cannot believe they're using some sort of blow in that's better. I don't remember what makes it better, but it's better. And that's going to be a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor. The only thing that's also in a bit, well, it's being held up right now because they don't know where the funding's going, but I also applied again 3 or 4 years ago to the lead paint program. And the 3rd floor, because of fire regs, need to have egress windows. And it needs 2 egress windows, and they have to be in the bedrooms. So that somebody can literally just step out a little bit and get on the roof and then go down another story, yeah.
So you're reporting here total monthly expenses of $5,359 and total monthly income of $4,403.
That sounds high.
There's
Oh, I'm sorry,
extra revenue.
right, that was rent, yeah, okay,
And,
yeah.
and I've got another question, and,
Sure.
and maybe other people have questions too, but I remember from talking to you in previous years that you had also had some real estate up in Burlington or in the
Yes, I do.
Burlington area. Do you still have that?
Yes, I do,
And is that rented?
yes. That's
Yes.
part of the income that's counted here.
And is that included in this?
Yes.
$3,023?
Well, I'm sorry, I can't read it.
It's part of this.
Yes, yeah, right, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah,
I have to, I'm sorry. I have to say that I do know that I have to treat the 2 houses very separately. And for years, I mean, the way I was able to buy the house in Burlington was because I already owned the house here in Montpelier. And I went there for business for 20, I think it was 24 years, 2019 something, I don't know. A couple of decades. And then But for a number of years, that house carried this house when I was first back here. And now it's interesting that for taxes and things, I have to treat them totally separate. But fortunately, some of my income does come from that house. And that frankly is the reason I'm still here. If I did not have the income from that house, I don't know that I would not have survived financially.
Okay, thank you. Paige, you were the first up.
Just since you, is the difference between your revenue and what it would be if the other apartment were rented? Would be enough to cover your expenses?
The other apartment was rented at the time for $1,800.
Yes, okay.
And there were three, it started with 5 adults and it was down to 3 adults in a family, mother, grown son and friend. I think that makes a very big difference.
Yeah, would make a
Yeah,
huge difference.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, right now I'm looking at the tax bill, it's at 6,000. And when the expenses are 5 and the income is 4 rather,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, it was just a question of your Burlington property.
Yeah.
Did you pay the taxes to Burlington?
they're currently, gonna be paid this, I think it's by Friday, for this year.
Okay, I was just wondering if.
No, they haven't fallen behind.
Ron and Terry?
Yes,
To clarify, please, so you have a property in Burlington
Yeah.
with how many tenants?
it's a one-family house.
What's the rent on that?
1,600.
And then you have one tenant still in Montpelier.
No, they just moved out without any
Okay,
notice.
so up until a week ago, you had,
Right, yes, that's right.
and that rent was how much?
I think it was 14. It was a very odd figure. It was like 1453. And it was being paid by CVOEO. I don't understand the tie-in with CVOEO in Burlington and here, but hey, if they were willing to pay it, I would take it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How much are we being asked to abate for taxes and for the water and sewer? Might be a question for Deb.
Well, I've got something here that says, sorry, I just came across it. Basically, they just did an update on it and it looks like it's 6,000 and change or 6,606 for, May. Yeah, May 15th, and I think it was February 15th.
Is that the notice,
Sorry,
is that the notice that just went out to June 11th? Got a mistake.
it says June 11th, yes.
Okay, so that would be, that figure would be, good through June.
I believe so, yes.
And how much is your recent water sewer bill? Did you put a copy in the one that you know, the thing? Did you put a copy?
I think
June 15th.
I think I did.
There's one in here, but it's back to October 24th.
I have those up today, what the water bill is 2,673.87.
How much? Oh, that's the one I just got
2,673.
today from Sarah. The woman in, I guess the deputy. Yeah,
So to clarify, is that
I think that 2,000 is utilities.
water and sewer
Yes,
year so
yes.
far? So you paid nothing? So
yes,
on
that's
either
correct.
water and sewer
Not-
or taxes?
Right. It would be 6,000. Actually, I was surprised now that you're commenting. Because, sorry. Let me tell you, I love paper. The 6,606 actually has, penalties and interest added to it. And I was surprised to see that only because this was a continuance from an earlier one. I don't even remember when I was in here before. December?
Go ahead, Charlotte.
The total tax bill for, was 10,066.08. And the first installment and part of the second installment were paid. And so the balance that's left is those installments plus the penalty and interest, 6,000.
So the document, the out of the abatement request in your request is 13,293.22.
I'm sorry.
The request,
This is what the form that
Okay, okay.
says the request you're making is 13,293
Yeah, but see, that was filled out in February
February.
and that's before these two
Before-
came in. Yes.
So it was partially paid. Is that what?
No, I only paid, I even made a mistake on that because sorry. Nope,
clarification that the 6,000 balance is what's owed on the subsequent quarters. I don't know if all of it was all of November paid, Charlotte, just part.
I think November was paid.
Part was paid.
In November? I thought that was,
Last, the previous year, but those were abated, right?
no, I thought they were paid. Because it was,
The 23, 24 were all paid.
I'm under the impression, yes. I just can't find the piece of paper that I know I picked up.
Charlotte, do you know the current outstanding?
Balance was 0, so I didn't find how.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think last year, yeah. And so the current balance of taxes is what, Charlotte?
With the penalty and interest is 6,606.78.
That's for property taxes, right?
And the water is 2,000.
And 2,000 and something. I just got that letter the other day. I email either yesterday or today. I wasn't sure. And it was 2,000 and change.
Rosie.
Charlotte has the exact figures. that
Okay.
were through June 50.
Okay,
I'll say, did you say that we abated last year?
She's asking for the total.
I have to pull up the minutes, but I believe we did.
I think we did. That's my recollection, but
Charlotte, do you have that? Do you have that? You don't have that?
I'm under the impression that we were talking about being abated. And then what happened was that they needed to go and get some information and asked me to wait, but I had somebody there to drive me. And they didn't have that much time to be there. Sort of like today, I have to be out of here before 8:30 because I can't drive in the dark anymore.
John, can you get into Nemrick taxes?
Not from here, I don't think. Let me see.
Bob,
Yeah, just have a question, Margaret, here. I'm looking at the sheet you have, the assessment sheet.
Yes,
And I noticed that you didn't receive any payments from the state. Did you not apply for?
I did. I did receive payments.
I don't know why it doesn't show on this sheet here.
Okay, I don't know. Can't see the sheet from you. I'm sorry.
It's the sheet.
Oh, okay.
So it
Like I-
doesn't-
Yeah,
State payment is zero.
Oh, no, I got something from the state. I don't remember what it
This
was.
is another one. I don't think.
I
there's
think
one.
it was, because that's what I was looking for when I said that, the payments, in November, I overpaid my taxes because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't doing it deliberately. I overpaid them. And,
doesn't show on the sheet that there is state payments, and my question is.
there was, I did make, I think it was,
The city of Montpelier to make up for something that maybe the state could have paid if someone applied, and also the fact that if her taxes are paid in Burlington, so because she doesn't have enough money, we're suffering in Montpelier and Burlington isn't. That's,
I would love to make Burlington suffer, trust me.
Well,
Right.
it doesn't show on the.
Oh, John, you have-
She got a state payment.
it doesn't show that you got a payment. Okay.
It doesn't show on the bill, but
I did get, I know I got one. I know I got one. It was, I'm thinking 1,700. I was really surprised. But I think it's the first time. I may be wrong.
I think what may be happening here
Yeah,
is,
it goes directly.
right, there was the 23-24 with the flood where she ran into some problems, and then I thought those were somehow paid off, and now we're talking about the end, well, we're in the ending of the 24-25 taxable year. And according to, and right now, everything previous has been paid some way, somehow. But I think what the determination is it roughly 8,000 and something that she owes, or is it the 13? And that's all we're showing that she owes at this point.
The 6,
And the tax bill this year does show that she got nothing from the state.
no, I did get something from the state. I'm sorry.
Usually it comes directly to the city.
Oh,
Paige, could you
Yeah.
speak that up?
I'm sorry.
Right,
Yeah,
sorry.
usually it comes directly to the
Yeah,
city.
okay.
is that,
thanks.
then why did they send it to
But
me?
it's usually on the,
And it would
Receipt.
show up on the tax bill,
There isn't
Yeah.
anything
and
that's
it's not there.
Uh-huh.
Are you thinking, Marty, what, this year, if you did not file by October, the deadline in October, up through February, I believe it is, the state would still give you, and maybe did you get a check from the state, Margaret? Personally?
That's what I thought. Yeah,
So how much, do you remember?
I think it was 17 and change,
And you
1700.
just got that in the past couple months?
No, I got that,
Because now what happens, if they haven't filed their Vermont income tax by the October date, and I can't remember whether it's the 15th or the 30th. Then if you get it filed before, I think it's February now, they send the taxpayer the check rather than credit their account through the
Oh.
city.
okay.
And so some of the accounts have been cleared up that were delinquent because some people finally got their taxes done and got them filed by February
Mhm.
of this year for, but they got the check personally because they're supposed to be bringing the check into us, but,
Okay.
And so you
that's
take
why
that-
they went to the automatic. In the early years of a rebate, whatever, it always went to the taxpayer, but that was not always getting
Always
to the
acceptable. Yeah,
taxes. So,
yeah.
Right,
so
That's smart.
there was something new this year, and I'm wondering if that's what she's got, because we don't show her that she got.
There's no credit.
I do remember that, getting that check was what helped me pay the November,
okay.
the November taxes. I know somewhere in my house, I have that piece. I don't throw anything out. So, I know it's there. I just didn't think of that until,
Okay, thank you. I think we have about all the information we're gonna get. Rosie, go ahead.
Well, I do want to understand better, so you have this house in Burlington that's worth approximately $400,000.
the house in Burlington is assessed at 3 something.
Okay,
I think it's 305. I'm not positive.
and since we're comparing your ability to pay, I'm wondering if the reason you haven't liquidated that asset by selling it.
Oh, the city of Burlington had no notes on that property. It turns out it was polluted because it had been a gas station. I wasn't worried about that because there was nothing in the records to indicate that was a problem when I bought the property. There was even a time when we were asked to drill in to see what was in the ground. And one time the numbers went up and we're like, how could the numbers go up? There's no, and I came to find out that the gas station on the corner, which is now closed, which was a Gulf station, has had at least 8 major spills in the time I've owned that property.
So have you made an attempt to sell the property and you haven't been able to?
That's
because of
correct.
that issue?
That's correct.
Where is that in process now?
Process.
Is it listed with a real estate agent?
No, not at this time. Part of it is that I did this year realize from a comment that one of the Island brothers, SD Island Concrete Company, made in the newspaper about something I can't, oh, they weren't going to work with the city of Burlington anymore on the affordable housing apartments. So I knew there was already a rift there. And I approached them and asked them if they were interested in the property. I got a phone call back in something like 38 minutes, which usually indicated, to me at least, that they might be interested. But they sent a fellow over and he went to the city and apparently, not that they would tell me, but the city probably said something to the state and the state sent me a letter saying, gee, you really have to go and dig more to see how much the plume is. I already know it's not my property that's caused the problem. I'm not saying it hasn't caused a problem, but that problem ended in the 70s. And there's a gas station down the street that's had 8 or 10, whatever it's been in the time I've been owned that property.
I guess I'm having a hard time understanding why you're able to rent this property and it still has value, but you're not able to
Sell it.
sell
Thank
it
you.
and liquidate
Thank you.
that, to pay off these other.
That
bills.
I haven't had these kind of bills to pay off. Prior to the floods, I owned both houses free. I'm now what, in debt? $189,000 for a mortgage on the house here.
John,
Yeah, and I apologize because I've been looking through stuff, so I hope this, I'm not just repeating the question.
Okay,
You're asking based on ability to pay,
yes,
but you already paid off all the taxes for the Burlington house.
I haven't paid them off yet.
Oh, you haven't paid
No.
them off.
What I said, somebody here asked me, and I said they're due this, I believe it's due on the 12th.
Okay, is it your intention to pay them?
Huh?
Will you be paying those taxes?
I will with the credit card, yes.
But why aren't you asking for an abatement based on the ability to pay in Burlington?
Actually, I hadn't thought of that, John. No, I'm serious.
I didn't like the idea that we could be
No, I,
subsidizing.
trust me, I'll be there. No, there's no question in my head. I'll ask them whether I'll get it or not, John, considering how not nice those folks are. I think one of my favorite sayings is that the difference between Chicago corruption and Burlington corruption is that Al Capone used to live in Chicago.
well, you understand the points though, right?
I do.
That-
No, you're right. I never ever thought to ask them because no matter what I've asked for the last couple of years, they just keep talking about as if I'm the only.
Marty,
So it seems like the inability to pay was brought on by the flood.
Yes,
What if we just treat this as a flood property? As we did with the other ones, as we look at the quarterly payment. That we did with other flood properties.
Well, I was thinking about that, but the damage was just to the basement and we didn't abate any basements.
But she's claiming that she can't rent out one of the units since the flood.
no, I haven't been able to, no.
So you're saying the flood is what caused one of your tenants to leave?
No,
Is what I
the flood, yes, yeah. The flood caused the tenants in the big apartment, the 3-bedroom apartment to leave. And they never came back.
So maybe if there's gonna be an abatement, it can be based on how we treated everybody else during the flood. And a partial.
Terry,
Yeah, I do think it's an important point that we did not abate for damage to basements.
Excuse me?
We did not abate for
Right.
damage to basements. That was the line that we decided we were
Okay,
whole.
okay.
And I feel like it's really important for equity, for all the people that we've already held that standard.
Okay, okay.
Sal.
So the
anything else?
tenants in the 3-bedroom left because of the flood.
Yeah.
Because the power was out and
Oh,
it wasn't wet up there, right?
no, but I'm sorry.
So the apartment's habitable, but there's not.
No, it's not inhabitable now.
It's not.
Well, what happened? I'm sorry.
Is this the seven-person family bathroom situation? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, but what happened in the flood is, we lost both furnaces. This was
Mhm.
built as a duplex.
Mhm.
So you had furnaces downstairs, you had hot water heaters downstairs.
And so no, that hasn't been replaced.
Not on that side. We have gotten, as I said,
So that's work you're waiting for
Yeah.
the contractors.
yeah,
But
One other question, this has to do with the insurance here.
you said that your insurance was 485,000, but they only gave you 40.
49 something,
62.
yes, yeah.
And did you use that? You said you couldn't find contractors. What did you do? Did you have repairs done in that amount?
The repairs that were done to date, that 80,000 is from at least a year ago. I haven't really updated it recently.
Right, but the 49,000 that they gave you,
Yeah.
what did you do with that?
Oh, that went into, hot water heater in my basement and heat on my side of the house. That was 23,000. I have this stuff. I didn't expect it, but I have it at home. We showed,
So,
that's why I started with the DeWolf thing, because what he was talking about to me was that they were saying it was seepage and they weren't going to cover it. And in fact, it was flood damage. I mean, you can still see splash patterns on my back shed doors from whenever the water was coming through.
so does anybody have a suggestion of a motion to make? I'm sorry, is there anyone online who has any questions you'd like to ask? Okay. Page.
This is a question about procedure because I was not involved in the massive amount of hearings that you guys went through last year. But if you didn't abate cellars, did that include damage to the systems? And electrical
Yeah.
systems, okay, let's assume that it was covered by insurance. Okay.
No, we actually had a rationale for not abating basements, which was that we did not want people to be incentivized to replace stuff in
Yeah.
basements. And we wanted to encourage people to move all of that stuff up to the basement.
Right.
Okay.
That was part of the argument here with Vermont efficiency.
Hmm.
This paper here.
So, Sal,
Well, it just seems like we don't quite have enough information. I mean, we don't know what happened to the 49,462. We know 23,000 and change went to one
Just for
side.
the heat, yeah.
We don't know where the rest, I mean, without that documentation, I don't think we can reasonably make a decision. I mean, once we have those numbers, then we know what we're voting on.
Okay.
It's just,
I have a stack of papers home.
hold on.
Sorry.
Carrie, were you raising your hand or just brushing
I
your?
was, I don't disagree with what Sal had said, but that's what we did the last time this came before us. We said we need more financial information.
Okay.
So now we have it. And so I think I would be okay with moving ahead on what we know
Okay.
rather than asking. And I also want to say that I feel like it's really important for us to be as consistent as we can with how we handle damage and impact of the flood. And we're not really abating people's taxes so much now, almost 2 years later because of the flood. And so we really need to look at ability to pay. And so the question is not how much damage, but whether you can afford to pay your taxes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a
Okay.
good point. Ron,
So I agree that this really boils down to the ability to pay regardless of the reasons why. But in this process, do we ever ask, well, what can you pay? Is that a
you can
question?
go ahead and ask that, yeah.
So, I mean, you're asking to abate all the taxes. But my question is there an amount that you would be comfortable within your means to pay?
Until I have the apartment up and running next door, I know I do not have the ability to pay what I need to pay now. So I can't see catching up on back stuff if I can't pay today what I owe now.
Well, Bev said everything back stuff, like up to through 24 is paid.
It's paid, that's right. It's only
So
this
there is
year.
no back stuff.
Well, there is because when I say back stuff, I'm talking that I had a house that had rent that was coming in. And as my family keeps saying, I should be retiring and going someplace sunny. But who's gonna buy, there are 3 houses for sale on my block right now, including the church next to me. Who's gonna buy a half-fixed flood house and pay me anything near what the house is worth?
Ben,
I just had a question about the viability of getting the apartment back up and running. Like, where would the money come from to get the apartment back up and running so that you could pay the taxes?
I applied for and was okayed for a grant from Downstreet.
Okay.
They have held that back because of their stuff with Vermont Efficiency. When Vermont Efficiency came in to help, they had an electrician come in who, in my eyes, didn't finish the job. And if you wanted to look through this folder, it just goes back and forth for 5 months.
So if the electric issue was
It's now
resolved with
stopped.
Efficiency
Yeah,
Vermont,
I brought another electrician in
you would potentially get funding from Downstreet to
to finish
upgrade
the
the
apartment
apartment.
next door and the one on the 4th floor, a 3rd floor, which is a 4th apartment.
John,
Yeah, so did you refinance the house?
Yes, I
That
did.
was back in late 2024.
I did something in 24, but I think the original amount, but the flood was in 23, right?
Well, I just know because somebody was doing a title search for
Yes,
you.
yeah, and that was in 24, yeah.
24.
But so what I did was I borrowed. I don't remember the amount of the original loan, but I think the original one was like 80,000, something like that. And then I had the whatever that was, the 49,000. That was, I had taken out a home improvement note to sell the house. When it didn't sell back in, I think 22, was it? That they said things like, I knew I needed to get the 3rd roof done. I knew a bunch of things had to be done, including painting. And
But back in 2024, then there was in fall of 2024, there was enough equity in the house.
yes, there's still, yeah.
And so they thought that it would sell.
yes,
So is there any reason to believe that they're wrong, that it wouldn't sell for?
it wouldn't sell for 426, no.
Okay.
Sorry. And I believe that's what I'm being taxed on.
well, this is not a assessment appeal, so we're not gonna get. into
Okay,
that.
sorry, okay. No, I just, no, but I,
Yeah,
yeah,
I would get what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just looking
Okay.
at income more than.
but
So folks, we have a range of options before us. Someone could make a motion to say, we don't think there's enough evidence here. We're not going to grant any abatement. Someone could make a motion to say we move to abate the current, this year's assessment or taxes or anything in between. But I'd like to get something clear. Rosie.
I understand this is a very hard situation, but I also, as the board meeting to weigh this against everybody else in Montpelier and who we're asking for those taxes. And while you have a difficult situation here, you do have some assets.
I do.
That you haven't generated, you haven't, fully maximized those. And so I'm not comfortable on this basis granting abatement. So I would move that you dismiss.
Deny the abatement.
Deny the abatement.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion?
The request, they can't pay, then what happens? Goes into foreclosure.
Well, it continues to be a lien on the property. We do have the ability to sell properties for back taxes.
Mhm.
That's what potentially could happen. What will happen? You don't know.
It's a property I've owned for 45 plus years.
Anyone want to have anything else to say before we vote? Paige.
This is just an editorial comment. I'm not sure where to go with it, but it seems like if she is working with Downstreet and with Efficiency Vermont and could resolve that problem, which doesn't seem like it should be a huge issue.
I didn't think so.
And get that resolved, then there might be the ability to pay, although it
Yes.
probably wouldn't be this.
It's not gonna be this tax season, no.
And of course, if that were to happen, even if the abatement is denied, if that were to happen, then, and she started getting income from that unit, she could, nothing that happens tonight changes her ability to keep working with Efficiency Vermont.
Right.
That's,
That's true.
Right.
And come back to us.
That's fine. The file will be thicker then. The file will be much thicker then.
okay, I'm gonna.
By the way, just one last thing. One of the comments that was made the last time I was in front of a board like this was that this is true. This is what happens with mom and pops housing. There is no pops. There's Margaret, and that's it. And that's all that's been there for the 46 years, 47 years.
Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote. We may wind up having to do a roll call. All those in favor signify by saying, so the motion is to deny the abatement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Okay. That means we have to do a roll call, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to have the list? Go ahead, John.
Okay. I'm just gonna be bouncing around in order to put the list I have.
Nothing to do today.
Ron,
Efficiency Vermont was supposed to help me. Sorry.
Yeah.
One to deny the abatement is a yes vote.
right,
Okay, yes.
okay, Ron,
Yes.
I vote yes. Val,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Adrian,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Rosie,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Palin,
Yes.
Jim. Not voting? Okay, Elaine.
Abstain. You didn't call me.
Oh, I'm about to, sorry. Jude.
Yes.
All right. The motion passes. The abatement is denied. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Keep working on generating that income. There's nothing in the rule in the world that prevents you from coming back again at some point.
I understand that. I actually, thank you.
Right, next we have Victoria Raffone.
See from one thing I can.
Doesn't appear to be here. And there was something about this.
This one I'm not as aware of. So it's gonna be a hard time answering questions. Let me take a look. Oops.
You think it's possible she didn't get notice?
No, I don't think that's, no,
Okay.
Sarah, I don't think that's possible.
Okay. Mhm.
You there? It looks like it might not be in my packet. Okay. Right. This is the one where she
Okay, folks.
just wants the water. She did not want to ask, though there was fire damage and Sarah actually invited her to, ask for abatements on the property and the water, and she only wanted to ask for the abatement on the water.
I'm not clear on this period we're talking about. So what would the account, there's an amount in the water bill that is just the cost of having an account for water and sewer. Which whether the water is running or not, you can still have the account.
See, should we put down what she's asking for, did she?
All the water.
Yeah.
So I can see how
All the
much she
current,
owes.
all the current water bills, which is really.
So that's $501.25.
That's two billings. That
Okay,
would be two billings.
I can pull up the current.
So of that 501 cents, how much of that would be, and I'm not using the right term, but there's an amount.
Yeah, we used to serve.
The readiness to serve charge, how much would that? of that-
70 something?
It's 141.64.
Oh, okay.
70 something on each service.
Yeah, 70.
So the service, the total for that same billing period is.
When this was submitted, I think she was talking about the bill that was due in December. Which was $326.92.
Yeah, what's showing as owed now is 501.25. I will say, just legally, I haven't always mentioned this, but I only came to realize it recently rather, that the bar for utility abatement is very low. It's basically if a reasonable person would think that they wouldn't have had to pay, or that they're, basically it's a reasonable person standard. And it's, the bar is low on that.
Page.
Looking through the documentation. Between the fire and which I guess was at the end of September and the end of December, they supposedly used 8,000 gallons of water, but I got the impression nobody was in the house. So has anybody from the city gone out to check? If he has anybody from the city to check and see why? And she said that she had somebody come and shut off the water inside.
Mm-hmm.
So has anybody checked it? Do we know? If there's someplace.
Find the leaks somewhere.
It sounds that way.
I don't think the city people are allowed to go in and work with a plumbing private home.
No, but I wondered, if I were a homeowner and somebody told me that I'd used 8,000 gallons, I would go there and say, okay, come in and look around my house and see, if you see any obvious, is the meter, there's something. It's got to be after the meter though, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that amount of usage isn't abnormal, when nobody's in the house.
Right. People have to ask for somebody from the city to come in to look at the meter. And there is a charge for that, but meter's only going to run one direction too. So it's just going to tell you how much is going through. That's why we ask folks to get a plumber before they come to the city.
Well, it seems, trying to read her note here. Lots of people, including, she named someone who's a general contractor. There's no water use as of 9/20/24. No water running anywhere. Fire chief. Vermont State Police Fire Inspector.
No plumbing.
Insurance investigators, general contractor.
There is a memo on the back from the city that says that there was not a shut off at the curb.
The other thing too, I don't know if she said there, whether insurance bids have covered stuff like that in the past and paid the water and sewer bill. There's been issues, but it depends on what she had for insurance, whether she was able to, would be able to get paid by the insurance.
I've got a couple of suggestions here. One is just to say, we don't have enough information, we're gonna ask her to come back, or two is to say, we're gonna treat this as withdrawn because she didn't show up, and we have the option to do that.
There's also an abatement for a leak. Like
An adjustment.
an adjustment, in like a one-time, right? Has that happened here?
It's 2.5 times the normal usage for the same period, I think. Soon it goes back 3 or 4 years, and something like that. And it's always the same period of time. And I think, like I say, there was a fire in this situation. And she believed the water had been shut off, but the city never had a request, it never was shut off. Jesus.
Has it been shut off now?
And they were working in there, so, you know, it's hard for us to tell how much water was used as they were working, people in the building, whatever.
And if you look at the memo, they have the usages here, and it wouldn't qualify because it's not two and a
Gotcha.
whatever times. Correct.
And Bev, you said even if the water's turned off, there would be this level of usage.
Not if the water was turned off at the curb, the water would get into the house. But it was never, she claims that she thought it was shut off and, it was very prominent that we had no record of
find out
request to shut it off for the public works.
So did we hear back from Nobi Plumbing? She said she asked Nobi Plumbing to winterize and shut off the water.
Now, it looks like it was shut off on December 30th. Well, there's a current reading. The highest reading on here is 143,900.
That's hot.
And in March, that was still the reading in March of 25.
So it didn't go up at all from,
But it did go up 12,000 gallons from April of 24 to December of 24. And that could easily be a leak of some kind, could be a running toilet, I mean, could be anything.
folks, how do you all
Well,
feel about
If something.
putting this off and say, listen, if you want to come in here, you're gonna have to show up and bring us evidence of what happened.
Yeah, it'd be easier to ask,
Yeah.
even if she were to show up on Zoom.
I just have a question about, is there a way that we can determine if the water has been turned off?
Well, Sal's point was that the water, there was no usage. What would you say from September to March? Sal?
No, but I mean, if the city shut off the water, wouldn't they have a record that they went out and shut off the water?
It'll show up.
Well, the reading in December 30th, 2024, and the reading March 27th is the same on the meter, so.
So it was shut off.
I think it was shut off in December, and it appears to have stayed off.
I think it's the period between September and December, that's the question.
Feels like we need to hear from her in order to make this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to completely file over the information is that it needs to.
Yeah, I think we just tell her, we're gonna reschedule this and you can come back.
Yeah, okay.
But it could be helpful if she had a bill from her on stating that he could turn the water off.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, it seems like people she should have some information for us, which we don't have now.
Yeah, so this is the second time she's not.
Well, in that case,
Yeah, and I think that we're going to dismiss it, and she's welcome to refile. Future, she's got more evidence, so once.
Yeah.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, there we go. We don't have any other business, so we can adjourn at 7:42. Thanks, everybody, and Charlotte, also to you. It's been